Hi, I'm Professor Beck Strah.
And I'm producer Brit, and you're listening to Prison Breakdown.
2, 3, break!
Eat the spoil is fun, but we're gonna bust out of here.
2, 3, break!
I'm locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
2, 3, break!
Not to say I'm a changed man. No danger to society here. God's honest truth.
2, 3, break!
I'm not leaving this cell. I'll get out my way. The right way.
2, 3, break!
AHOY? Because I gotta, dudes.
What?
Yeah, we got ahoy, dudes.
Okay.
I wanted a better response from you on that. Can I try it again?
If you must.
AHOY? Because I gotta. Dudes.
Okay.
Ahoy, dudes. And welcome to Prison Breakdown.
Hello.
I am your co-host, Professor Beck Strah.
And I
Joined today by the producer, the producer with the most, the producer who can boast, the producer who does not spend a lot of time on a boat. And boats are the topic today. Producer Brit, what is your experience with boats?
Well, I don't have much experience with boats because I'm the producer with the most and the producer on the coast.
I'm also on the coast, though. Does that make me a producer?
Maybe.
So, realistically, today, we're chatting about boats. Tell me, how do you feel about boats? What time have you spent on boats? How do you feel about it?
I like boats just fine. You know, I'm I like boats. I'm not sure I like boat people.
Ooh, boat people. Are we talking like sailors? We're talking fisher.
No. I love people who, you know, love the high seas, work on the high seas. I'm talking about people who only have boats as like a leisure activity. Especially there's this weird culture here in Seattle where a lot of people who live in Lake Washington have boats, and they basically never take them out of Lake Washington. They just have a boat on a lake, and which is fine. You can have a boat on a lake, but you have access to the sea. And these people have these huge boats and never make it to the sea. They just they buy a huge boat just so they can go and like tailgate, you know, the college football game on a boat.
Hell yeah. It seems like a lot of work just for tailgating a college football game.
Yeah.
I've never been to a tailgate, but it's a party boat is what you're buying at that point. You just got to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, sure.
Now, you and I, we've been on a couple of cruises. How do you feel about a cruise?
Cruises are fine, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy them while I was there, but like, yeah, that was far before I was medicated and when I was very depressed most of the time. One might recall the trip we took, a cruise we took, where I spent, out of the week we were there, I had to have spent like 4 or 5 days in the room just rewatching the 5 episodes of Captain Planet that they had on their internal television system.
You love Captain Planet. And don't forget Mr. Nanny. I believe that was also in rotation.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, the Hulk Hogan starring. Oh, God, we love Hulk Hogan films.
We sure do. H.H. brother.
Yeah, rest in peace to, not a real one, but a real dick.
Yeah, real bad example of a human being right there.
Yeah. Now, today we're talking about prison ships. But before we do, we're going to talk about the brig. And before we talk about the brig, we're going to talk about our sponsor.
Oh, we certainly should. Let's give a nice shout out to Roger Williams University, School of Justice Studies.
Yeah. My favorite School of Justice Studies. What kind of programs do they have there, Britt?
Oh, gosh, they have so many programs, brother. We're going to start out talking about a little thing called public management, how to manage the public.
Yo.
Got a degree.
How do you manage your public?
I don't know if I have a public. I feel like you have to have like fans to have a public. Yeah.
You got fans who show up to your shows.
True.
That's a fan. That's a public.
Okay. I manage them by, telling them to dance. That's how I manage my public. We also have degrees in public administration, cloud computing, legal studies, forensic science, cybersecurity and networking, cyber specialism, digital forensics. Then, of course, we got our boys, E. Bronson and B. Strah, over in criminal justice, the School of Criminal Justice. Great school over there. And then,
yes,
of course, my favorite.
Such a good, cool thing that we love, leadership.
We do love leadership. So
good and cool.
Indeed.
Good, cool.
So if you, if you want an education or you want to improve your existing education, want to do something vocational, maybe get a better job, get a raise for a new degree, Roger Williams School of Justice Studies is your one-stop shop for learning.
Yes. Come visit us. Email us at ebronson@rw.edu, and he will give you an earful about the School of Justice Studies. All good.
Yeah.
We want you to come here.
Please.
Please and thank you. And while we're at it, thank you, Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies. We appreciate your patronage.
Right. And while we're at it, thank you, Roger Williams, founder of Rhode Island.
Yeah, we wouldn't have Roger Williams University without Roger Williams founding Rhode Island. Nobody talks about that.
Yeah. He's honestly one of the better founding fathers. Like, most of the founding fathers are pretty evil. Roger Williams, by all accounts, I think he, worked with the local native population and didn't, kill all of them, would be expected. Pretty good stuff. So,
thank you, Roger Williams, the person who's probably been dead for, 200 years.
Right.
So, we were talking about boats, ships, and the brig. Now, my experience with boats is mostly what yours is, being on cruise ships. I think it's awesome. I love having 24-hour food. I love having a 24-hour ice cream machine was one of the coolest things. I don't know how much I would use it at this point in my life, but for what it was, pretty rad.
Well.
Now, do you know what happens to you if you misbehave on a boat? You act a fool.
I believe you go overboard.
You
walk the plank.
That's not what happens. We are in 2026, my dude.
Well.
So, have you ever heard the expression "throw them in the brig"? Do they ever say that on your favorite Star Treks?
They do, actually. They do. Well, which is one of my points of contention with Star Trek, because they try to make it seem like this glittering utopia, and I'm like, hey, they still have a carceral state. They still throw people in the brig is a pretrial measure to then send them oftentimes to a prison planet, ostensibly.
Oh, they have whole planets for prisons.
And so I'm like, listen, the United Federation of Planets, it sounds nice, but it is not a utopia.
Prison planet. What about don't they have any space station prisons?
Some of them, yeah, they do.
Yeah, we don't have to use a planet for it. We just put it out in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
Now, in modern day parlance, the brig, it's a term often used for military jails on military bases.
Yep.
But we also use the term for jails or prisons on board a ship. It's typically a Navy boat or a Coast Guard boat. And the term comes from the brigantine, which is a ship that has two masts. It's a smaller boat. You often put 12 to 16 people on it. And these were used in the 17th and 18th centuries. And they were popularly used by pirates of the time as well. But when the ships were decommissioned from active use by the Navy, they were left floating out in a harbor, and they could serve as these floating prisons for sailors who committed maritime offenses out at sea. And so the brig is a term that's still used today. If you commit an offense at sea, you get put in the brig.
That's fun.
That is pretty fun. And cruise ships, they have a brig.
They do.
It is a padded room with a single bed and a door that doesn't open from the inside. It's essentially a holding cell. But you have to really fuck up to go there.
Imagine going on a Carnival cruise and getting institutionalized. Or going on a Disney cruise and having the mouse put you in the funny room.
Do you think they actually have the characters in it?
Yeah,
The security is dressed up as characters.
This Goofy comes like, shucks, it's time to go to the brig.
So to go to the brig on a cruise ship, as I mentioned, you got to seriously mess up. So it can be threats you're making to another person. If you're stating suicidal ideations, there's plenty of measures that the cruise ship staff can take first. They're going to cut off your spending accounts for the duration of the cruise. They're going to make it so you can't buy alcohol if that's your problem.
Yeah.
Or they can force you to stay in your room,
Right.
like your own room, and just post security outside the door. And they can also force you off the ship and make you leave the next time the cruise ship reaches port. And it's apparently very few crimes that get committed on cruise ships, or very few crimes that are at least reported on cruise ships. So we have cruise ships carrying millions of passengers per year across the world. And there's about 100 crimes that get reported to the FBI every year from cruise ships. Only 100, which is, I would have expected much more than that. You got
to consider though that's those are only ships that are patriated to the United States of America that they can report to the FBI. And most cruise ships, for tax purposes, are patriated to like the U.S. Virgin Islands or like places where the taxes are much less. And so usually the authorities there would deal with it. And some things like matter with like port of release and port of entry and stuff like that. But, maritime law is very complicated when it comes to like, who has jurisdiction.
Yeah. I imagine, because so much of it is like, does this fall between like America or someplace in Europe?
Right. Because if they did it at a port of call, where they are, and they did it on that land. And so, sure. But if they do it at sea in between 2 points, like, who deals with them? Where was the crime committed?
Do you think space is going to be like this someday too? Where it's eventually like international waters?
Like this. Space is already like this, brother.
All right. Well, space crimes, that's something we have to look forward to in the future. I'm going to be long dead before space criminology is a thing, but I look forward to, I hope the next generation really has a handle on space crime.
I'm going to go to law school and become the world's first space lawyer before space law is actually needed.
Yeah. You're in the courtroom in an astronaut suit, eating astronaut ice cream in front of the jury.
So, sir, you need to leave.
You're not even on this case.
Yes.
So today, you and I are discussing ships used as prisons. And this does not include slave ships. It does not include deportation ships, which are the boats that were used to send back Jews who were trying to enter Palestine during World War II. And it's not going to really touch on convict ships that were used to send convicted felons from England to the US and Australia, which was like banishment. As far as America goes, we have been using prison ships as far back as the American Revolutionary War.
Wow.
Now, historically, the Brits, like you, used prison ships to hold prisoners of war throughout several wars. They did it in the War of 1812. They did it in the Napoleonic Wars from 1803 to 1815. The Second Boer War from 1899 to 1902. World War I, World War II. But historically, Americans have not really used prison ships for holding POWs, with exception of the War of 1812 and the Civil War. Instead, we transported prisoners to the U.S. by ship and put them in prison camps across the country. And in the War on Terror, as they call it, in the early 2000s, there were frequent allegations of the U.S. using Navy ships to hold and interrogate people they suspected to be terrorists. Were you aware of this?
No, but that comes as no surprise whatsoever. Like that was the 24 era, where like I think 24 at that time was basically a documentary on the egregious things we were doing to suspected terrorists around the world.
Yeah. Where we had a guy going like, "There's not enough time," and then he would like take a lamp and like disconnect the wires to like shock somebody.
Right, and then use like a cigar cutter to like cut off the tips of someone's fingers or something like that. What are we doing?
24, it just writes itself. It's so easy.
Right. And like Jack Bauer comes in with just like a huge like honey ham, and he's like, "Hey, I heard Muslims can't eat ham," and then he just rubs it in his face like, "No!"
Yeah, it's not sensitive to people's needs.
Yeah, no.
But that was the national appetite at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about something called prison hulks. You know what a prison hulk is?
No, I like the term though.
When a ship is no longer seaworthy, it can be a prison hulk. It's not referring to a big green guy in a jail uniform. Am I right?
We're not talking about a institutionalized Mark Ruffalo, are we, folks? Oh!
So we started using prison hulks, these old, no longer seaworthy ships, as prisons during peacetime, dating back to 1775. Mm-hmm. And if you have an old ship and you tear off the mast, you tear off the rudder, the rigging, all the sailing implements from the boats so they can't be used for sailing, you can retrofit it to accommodate prisoners.
Sure.
And when the Brits could no longer banish their inmates to America because we had this revolutionary war going on, they lost this overflow valve to get inmates out of the country. And so they start worrying about overcrowding in their prisons. And they set up these hulks in various harbors around Britain. That's you.
Yep.
And they have these old battleships sitting on the Thames River that they're not using anymore. And they turned them into prisons that held like 100 to 700 inmates each, even if the ship is not made for it, which, of course, we've never had good conditions for prisons.
Right.
But this is even worse. Like, conditions are shit. Inmates during the day spend their time dredging the river. At night, they're below decks. They're paired up. They're sleeping on wooden platforms. On a British river. It's got to be cold. Yeah. They actually tried to put inmates in hammocks, but they found out that this is a shitty idea following a trial period. The problem is, if you're in chains, say you're in like handcuffs and leg irons, how are you going to get into a hammock?
Great question. At the same time, if you're like on a boat, why do you need chains?
In case you escape and try to swim to shore, probably.
Okay, I guess.
Well, it was on the Thames, so a river.
Sure.
Not the ocean. If it was an ocean faring vessel, might be a little different. But no, all bad. And a lot of these inmates are just like in a holding pattern. A lot of them were waiting to be transported to Australia because they couldn't banish people to America anymore at that point. So they're like, release valve, Australia. Now, using the Criminal Law Act of 1776, the British replaced banishment to America by transportation with 3 to 10 years of hard labor, which could include removing sand, soil, and gravel from the River Thames. And that's what led to a lot of inmates dredging the river. And in the first 20 years of their use, Britain got around 8,000 inmates on these prison hulks, and nearly a quarter of these, or around like 2,000 of these inmates, died on board. As you can imagine, there's a lot of diseases that will kill people. We had something they called jail fever. They had tuberculosis, cholera, scurvy, and severe depression. They were all quite common. And so we actually continued their use until 1857 in England, when Parliament said, "Oh, we're not going to renew that library card for you. Sorry." And so they went out of business. But in the last century of our lives here, Great Britain has, of course, used ships to detain political prisoners in Northern Ireland. And they started using a ship called the Weir to relieve prison overcrowding in England from 1997 to 2005. And they took a pause for a minute after that, and they go, okay, maybe not. And then in 2010, they step back in and they're like, hey, what if we used prison ships again? And the public was like, no. We don't want your prison ships. Get them out of here. So England stopped.
Good.
Yeah, I'm glad. And we've seen other countries use ships as well for holding purposes across the 19th and 20th centuries. A quick rundown includes Chile, Cuba, Brazil, Japan, the Philippines, Cambodia, Argentina, Australia, and Uruguay. But the meat of what I want to talk about here comes from the use of prison ships during peacetime. And in our country, we've seen 3 major uses of prison ships during peacetime. And we're going to talk about 2 of them today. And we'll talk about one of them next time. But they were used in California, and then at another point in time in California and in Maine, and in New York City until very recently. Wow. And we're going to handle this chronologically. Let's go California and Maine. 1902 to 1916, baby. Actually, that's a lie. Chronologically, I had the years wrong on here. California, 1849 to 1854. What is going on in California during this time?
Gold rush.
Do you got gold fever, baby? Because I do.
Oh, I'm a 49er, baby.
Somebody discovered gold. We struck gold at Sutter's Mill in 1848, and this meant 300,000 people swarmed to California to get rich. What happens when 300,000 people go into an area that has no infrastructure?
System shock.
System shock. There's no infrastructure to deal with problematic individuals, to deal with crime. And so local authorities said, maybe we use some grounded seafaring vessels as prison ships until more permanent jails can be built. So they used prison hulks to detain people with criminal convictions and mental illnesses. And interestingly, the first state prison in California was opened in 1851 on a ship called the Waban. So California's first prison on a ship. And for 6 months, the Waban sat anchored off of Angel Island in San Francisco Bay before the state bought 20 acres of land nearby on a spit called San Quentin. You ever hear that one?
I've heard of that once or twice before, yeah.
And on the Waban, we had these terrible conditions for inmates always. Like it is such a consistent process throughout history that you're never going to find like, oh, that sounds pretty good for inmates. No, this country hates inmates. On the Waban, we would pack 4 to 5 people into 8-foot square cells. So if it's 8 feet by 8 feet with 4 to 5 people, you have people probably laying over each other in a crisscross pattern, even trying to sleep. They had a bucket for the bathroom. Sounds pretty good so far. And if there was some kind of shitty weather, the men were cooped up for days. And the smell got so bad that the guards were like, I'm not going downstairs. That's not my job, man. I'm not a bathroom cleaner. So they would refuse to go downstairs to the men's quarters until it was aired out. And notably, it was damp and it was freezing in the winter. And in the summer, way too hot, as you can imagine an unventilated old wooden ship would be.
Yes.
And the inmates' jobs, they slept on the Waban at night. And during the day, they were forced to build their own prison at San Quentin, which opened its first cell block in 1854.
It's like digging your own grave. That's awful.
Yeah, or like we talked about in the past, like inmates at Angola were asked to make an electric chair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at the
I think
same
it was
time,
Angola.
like...
It was either Angola or the Walls in Texas, where they're like, no, we're not doing that, man.
Yeah, like at the same time, like if they're asking me to build that prison and then like be incarcerated in it, like, you know, and I'm like bricking the prison up or something, instead of using mortar, I'm just using like sand or water. so I can just like kick the wall down and leave.
Yeah. Maybe don't do the best job when you're building your own prison. That's the smartest thing you can do.
Didn't Creed write a song about this?
With arms wide open.
No. My own prison. Oh, so I hold my head up high with a burner. Yeah.
What about arms wide open?
Yeah, okay, that too.
Good enough.
Yeah.
It was like talking about inmates carrying wood and supplies to build a prison in their arms.
Right. Welcome to this place. I'll show you everything. Mostly just your cell. Yeah.
So their jobs, the inmate jobs, they were gathering firewood. They got to keep warm. They were filling in swampland around the prison. That's a necessity.
Sure.
They were leveling the ground or working in nearby stone quarries to build this prison that they were eventually going to make their home. Now, on one hand, it does sound better than living on a prison boat.
Sure.
On the other hand, it sounds worse than anything else.
Right. It's, lesser of two evils here. It's, would I rather be imprisoned on a boat or imprisoned in a former swamp?
Now, our second period of using prison boats domestically in America happens in 1902 to 1916 in California and in Maine. Prison ships got some use because the U.S. Navy had 5 different vessels for incarcerating people. You get a nice pick there. I bet they use some cool old boats.
Sure.
2 get parked off the coast of Maine. 3 off the coast of California. And they were kept as overflow housing for prisoners in both circumstances. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find much information on their use other than a report from a naval officer saying, hey, your sanitary conditions are pretty good. The health of the inmates is excellent and the food is good in quality. But this is not really demonstrated by how inmates treat it, because when they're given more freedoms, they deserted the ships immediately and escaped.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sorry, what's up?
Makes sense. I too would escape a prison ship.
Yeah, you can swim to shore and get out of there, and you're in an age of much less surveillance, like the early 1900s, where you can leave to like Alaska and no one will ever know who you are. And yeah, why wouldn't you? Oh. The problem is these were also used as military ships during the time, and it's impractical to have a military ship / prison ship, and you're still trying to do military drills.
Right.
So they're impractical for doing military drills, which was actually a priority on these ships because there were too many inmates. So don't use prison ships as part of the lesson here. And as a little teaser for next time, we also had prison ships used in New York City, maybe, from 1987 until just a few years ago when they ended their use in 2023.
Wow.
And I'm going to tease it and leave it there. Next time, we're going to talk all about these prison ships being used in New York. And it's pretty fascinating that we use them for so long, being that they suck. Prison ships, we've not perfected the prison ship. We're far from perfecting a prison ship. Mm-hmm. And the problem is they're drafty, they're cold. It's more space that you can keep inmates, and you don't have to build a facility. You can try and repurpose something old like a ferry or some kind of old troop transport boat. It's not going to be good no matter what.
Right.
I don't even know that it's better than doing like private prisons. Like they're all atrocious conditions.
If you could repurpose one structure or building or boat or anything into a prison, what do you think would make the best prison?
Carnival cruise ship.
Interesting. Carnival cruise.
But I would keep the cruise director on there. So we would have like the newlywed game still.
Right. Keep like the stand-up comedians and like the reggae band, like
the jugglers.
Yeah, we're the prison reggae band.
I completely support this. And you and I, we went on a cruise once, and we met a band called Too Cool, I believe they were called.
Correct.
And it was a guy who looked like Eric Bronson, and then a guy who looked like he was on a lot of drugs.
Right. So yeah, the guy who looked like, the way we met this band. So the band was called Too Cool, but like the lead singer was named Too Cool. That was his name, and then he had a keyboardist who also did like sampling and stuff. And I totally forget that guy's name. But when we met this guy, we were hanging out with some other teenagers in a hot tub, and this guy just like saunters over and comes in, and this guy has to be like probably mid-40s, bald, just like looks like everyone's uncle. Like he looks like everyone's uncle who has a gambling problem.
Uncle Bronson.
And so he just like comes and sits with like all these teenagers, and like the whole time I'm thinking like, is this appropriate? Like
Yeah. Let the record show that we were teenagers at the time too. We're not just hanging out in a hot tub with teenagers.
Right.
It was age appropriate.
Yeah, we were all teenagers, and then this 40-some-year-old dude just comes in and he's like, "What's up, fellow teenagers?" and just hangs out with us for like an hour.
Not age appropriate.
Not really. But then we saw his band, and they were funny.
Yeah, and also I should mention, as a kid, if there's a band called Too Cool and a guy who calls himself Too Cool, I think that this guy's pretty cool at the time. Like, I thought he was cool. In retrospect, I don't know that he was that cool.
Do you think at this point, he's upgraded to 3 cool? Or do you think he's still just so. 2? Yeah.
I think he's upgraded far more than this. This was over 25 years ago. So he's probably 8 cool by now.
Oh, yeah, probably at least 8 cool. I'd say maybe like a 34.5 cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's he probably spends a lot of time on cruise ships still, maybe in like lounges of like hotels.
Right.
I don't know where would be an appropriate venue for this man.
Yeah. My favorite memory of watching them play still is they played a cover of Smoke on the Water. And right beforehand, the guy who did the keyboards and stuff just out of nowhere goes, they were Canadian, and he picks up a Canadian flag and he goes, "It's time to party!" And he runs around the room just waving this Canadian flag and like makes his way back to his keyboard and then hits the play button and goes, "Bom, bom, 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 bom." And then they proceed to do a very bad cover of Smoke on the Water. And that memory, even though it had to have been, maybe 24 years ago now, it still sticks in my head.
Think about how based that guy is. Like that guy is so cool. Too Cool himself was like, he was a guy who acted like he was above it all, like very like self-contained cool.
Sure.
This guy had no containment.
Not at all.
He was all over the place. Cool.
I also do remember the one joke that he dropped during a show. Like someone was like, "USA," after like they waved the Canadian flag, and Too Cool goes, "Hey man, at least we can smoke the leaf on our flag." And I was like, "Damn, all right, dude."
Are you saying the American flag needs a leaf to make it more smokable?
It needs a weed leaf, brother. The United States of cannabis.
So are they smoking? Has anyone ever smoked a maple leaf?
That's I'm sure someone has,
Yeah.
I'm sure humans have smoked basically everything there is to smoke, just to see. If I lived like prehistory before science told me what I could and couldn't smoke, I'd be trying out everything.
Yeah. You would be like the early scientist.
I would. Like a scientist, I'm applying this.
Oh, bro, that is such a good line to end things on.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, how about we transition to, let me put on a little something more comfortable called Movie Minute.
Let's do it.
Movie minute. Movie minute. 60 seconds with producer Brit to talk about movies.
Let's put 60 seconds on the clock. All right. So last time, Professor Strah here sentenced me to watch Predators from 2025. So Predators from 2025 is a documentary produced and directed by David Ossett, a documentarian best known for his previous efforts, Thank You for Playing, and Mayor. The film focuses on the rise and fall of the reality television program To Catch a Predator, hosted by Chris Hansen, which ran from 2004 to 2007. It also follows a cast of YouTube and online personalities that are continuing the work of To Catch a Predator by duping would-be pedophiles into exposing their proclivities on camera. I found this film to be fascinating. What was really clear to me from the numerous interviews with Chris Hansen and his copycats is the fact that these people are, despite what they say they're trying to do, they are deeply exploitative, doing whatever they can to compromise people's lives, safety, and freedom. Are these folks targeted by Chris Hansen and his ilk disturbed in a way that needs to be addressed by society? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is exploiting them for likes, views, and advertising money a proper way to address these problems? I don't think so. One of the most telling parts of the documentary has Chris Hansen saying something about his copycats like, well, the difference is they're doing this for clicks and likes. I'm doing this for justice. As though his show wasn't just a way to exploit would-be sex offenders for ratings and advertising dollars.
Yeah, very clearly so.
Yeah, so overall, I really enjoy this documentary, and it made me internalize what I think is a very important question. Several very important questions, actually. So, like, in cases like these, who is truly exploiting who? Is this entrapment? You know, entrapment's not something we talk about as a society much anymore, but, like, I think it's something we need to pay more attention to, because cases like these, like, it's, I think, clear entrapment. Like, these people are reaching out to these people saying, hey, I'm like, you know, your 13-year-old sexual fantasy, come over to my house and do things to me. And, you know, these people, they're, you know, broken people, and they're like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do this. Whereas, you know, if these copycats and, you know, Chris Hansen's folks, like, never did this, would these people ever be guilty of a crime? Would they have ever acted out this fantasy without permission? It's a lot of hard questions.
Yes.
Also,
There's a scene in the movie that really brings up that that entrapment idea too, where it takes place in Texas or Kentucky. I think it was Texas, where there's like a DA who's messaging back and forth with one of these decoys, and the decoy calls him, "Hey, are you going to come hang out with me?" Like pretending to be an underage person and like trying to trap this guy, right. And he doesn't show up. But they look at this guy's number, they figure out that this is a local DA, and the camera crew goes to his house, where this guy kills himself as the camera crew and cops are coming in.
Right.
And like this guy didn't actually make any move to go to his house. He did like communicate with a minor for sexual purposes, and he should not have been doing that. But he didn't take any steps toward actually committing that crime.
Right. And like
the next step,
it begs the question, like, yes, these people are broken. They have sexual proclivities that do not reconcile well with society and our values. However, like, if they're not acting upon anything, if they're only pursuing things in fantasy, what is a proper punishment for that? Should they even be punished, or should they be remediated some other way? Should they just be rehabilitated? And that's a question that, like, Chris Hansen never really asks. And I think that's very telling, you know. But the film also brings up other important questions to me, like what can we do to find these folks with these proclivities in a safe manner and help them before they find themselves in a situation like this, or before they find themselves like acting out on their fantasies. And ultimately, I think this documentary asked a question that I think is super important. I think the central premise of this documentary is the question, who are the real predators here? You know, is it the people who are fantasizing about preying on underage people, or is it the people who are exploiting these people and entrapping them in order for clicks, likes, advertising money?
Yeah, and social clout on YouTube.
Right.
It is a really broken system. And when they mention, like, the documentary mentions at one point that the film crew and the producers of To Catch a Predator were the ones, they were setting up these things for the police. And so it ends up being entertainment driving the justice system.
Right.
When, what? Like it is setting police priorities rather than the police. Like something like Cops is more of a passive experience. It's a camera person going along with a cop.
Right.
But here they're defining the narrative through the entertainment industry rather than law enforcement.
Right. It's like a reality show called like Money on the Streets, where you just give a guy a huge wad of cash and they're like, you have to keep this out in the open, and they drop him on O Block in Chicago and they're like, yeah, go for it. Is that guy going to get robbed? Yeah, probably. But like, you set that situation up. You knew what was going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah. And Chris Hansen has really, like, in the interviews, it holds with him. He's really rationalized the conclusion where he thinks he's doing a societal good. Oh, enough people come up to me and say, I'm doing a good thing that I've talked myself into. Right. This is not exploitation. Mm-hmm. That's what it really comes across with him.
Yeah, no, he's definitely talked himself into making this a morality tale where he is the hero.
Yeah, very clearly.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, though, really great film, brought up a lot of great points, made me feel quite a few things. 4 out of 5 soups.
Yeah. It hits, and any documentary that can raise questions like this, and I had no idea about the modern day, what do they call them, like pedophile hunters, or they have some name like that.
Yeah.
The YouTubers trying to chase Chris Hansen levels of clout. It's all very silly, and like you're trying for like a para law enforcement role, some of these guys, and it comes across as like diluted or pathetic. And one thing that really strikes me is a lot of these guys that they're arresting, they're pathetic dudes, and a lot of them are like, hey, it's a trick of the editing where they'll cut out stuff like where the guys are like crying and they're like, I really screwed up, I need help, and where do I get that? And we should put more focus on rehabilitating people, so like these people, they don't just go to prison, come out, and they're still broken.
Yeah, these people are humans, but these programs and these setups are very intentionally made to dehumanize these folks and make them look like absolute monsters when they're just complicated people with, negative proclivities.
Yeah. They're people who, as I said, pathetic is what really comes to me as the bottom line. Sure. And it's quite sad how the whole thing plays out.
Right. And one more question that this film raises that I think is very interesting. Why is this the only acceptable form of vigilantism? Basically, no matter how you do vigilantism, it's almost always a crime. But this is one of the few sorts of vigilantism that is somehow not a crime. Like, I don't know. It seems kind of weird to me. Isn't like impersonating a teenager online kind of fraud?
I think it comes out of, we have been through like moral panic after moral panic. We've been conditioned to hate sex offenders so much.
Right.
It's so much more than like any other kind of criminal that it's just blanket statements. Sex offender is the worst, and gives us this perception that makes it okay societally to do something like this. But it is it's a kind of a trick of the light. It is something that culturally we have brought upon ourselves through just repeated interactions with be afraid of sex offenders, stranger danger.
Yeah. Yep. But great documentary. If you're listening to this, I'd recommend going and checking it out right now.
So, Brit, you like this one too much. I got to assign something that's more questionable.
Oh, boy.
Who would you describe as your least favorite musician out there? Least favorite popular musician?
Neil Diamond.
Are you aware of a film that's come out in this last year called Song Sung Blue about a Neil Diamond cover band?
I did not know that's what it was about, but yes, I was aware that film came out.
Well, this is your new sentence.
Oh, great.
Hard time with Neil Diamond.
Well, at least it's not The Jazz Singer starring Neil Diamond where he does blackface.
Yeah, I'm curious to see this cultural artifact sometime, but we'll save that for another time.
Perhaps.
And with that, we want to thank Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies. Thank you for your continued patronage.
Thank you so much. If you like this podcast, please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, be that Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, whatever they're using for podcasts now. Wherever you get podcasts, like us, rate us, subscribe to us.
Subscribe us.
Say a nice word about us. We'd really appreciate it. It helps our podcast grow.
It doesn't even have to be multiple words. You can just put like great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good review. I like that.
Or mediocre.
No, don't say that.
No,
we want good ratings.
Don't say that. I just had to say
You
the
can give
quote
us 5 stars
from
as long as
Mad
you put
Max.
mediocre.
Yeah, it's a fun quote.
It was a fun quote. I appreciate that. But it doesn't help build this listenership, this movement, this prison ship that we're on.
True.
It's not a prison Hulk. It's a ship.
Yeah. We don't want listenership. We want prison ship.
That's a perfect note to end on.
I think so. Well,
and with that,
I think it's time for a little thing called Lights Out.
Lights out! Lights out!